Going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and you ignore everything else.
You're taking him out of
like
context when you're talking about Daryl, who's done, what was it, 30 plus hours?
So what? 30 plus hours of podcasting. You do that in a week. I mean,
yeah, but it's a very different thing.
It's a very different thing. He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives, clearly. Come on.
Dave Smith absolutely destroyed this Douglas Murray on this on the Joe Rogan Experience. Everyone's been talking about this, how Douglas Murray looked like a fool against Dave Smith, tried to belittle Dave Smith, tried to call Dave Smith weird for wanting to comment on such topics, which if you have to resort to these type of things, it's kind of a sign to me that you lost the debates. But regardless, I don't even really know what they're debating about. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm just concerned about this Douglas Murray looking like an absolute jackass. Let's see how this debate goes down.
I do also think that one of the bigger, kind of the bigger picture dynamics to all of this is that we have, at least since 9/11, been in a state of perpetual war. And all of these wars have been disasters. They have been so many lies involved in selling all of them. I mean, the whole Iraq war, the whole war in Afghanistan, just lying the whole way through. I mean, I remember literally having conversations with Green Berets in the middle of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, George W. Bush is telling you that the army we're building up there is really successful. This thing's going to fall in a week without us. And then all through the Obama administration, it's just like lie after lie after lie with disastrous wars. And so this does create a fertile ground for people to say, I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue with you about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars today.
I think the interesting question is whether you're busy watering it.
Well, should you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm all for going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and you ignore everything else.
You're taking him out of context when you're talking about Daryl, who's done, what was it, 30 plus hours?
So what? 30 plus hours of podcasting. You do that in a week. I mean,
yeah, but it's a very different thing.
It's a very different thing. He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives, clearly. Come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not claiming to be.
He's already turning up that jackassery dial, almost. It's not quite there, but it's almost already at a 10. He's just turning it up. He's not a scholar of our time. Oh, my word. Pish posh, Dave Smith. He's just a lowly comedian. What does he know?
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
No, but you don't consume his work.
What I'm saying, because I don't need to consume endless versions of a revisionist history. I understand.
But it's not
where this
revisionist history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history. He's basing it on historical work.
Yeah, I know. But okay, so this is my point about jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian or historian?
He's not a comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of history.
Does Dan Carlin. He doesn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move. It's like some weird jiu-jitsu move.
No, I don't.
Where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about what I like to.
You can talk about what you want.
So what is the point
I've
here?
noticed you can. But
we all can. Point?
The point is, what are you pushing? What are you watering?
What am I pushing?
Yes.
Liberty, free markets, peace, prosperity, not getting in another stupid catastrophic war, which we're on the precipice of right now. That's what I'm pushing.
What are we on the precipice of?
Well, I think weren't you just talking about it the other day? Everyone I hear on the inside says we're about to attack Iran. I think you just said something about that the other day. Am I wrong about that? I thought I saw in one of your interviews that you did.
Possibly.
No. Okay.
That doesn't mean we are on the verge of a war. I mean, you keep referring to we being in wars. There's a very big difference between a country having a military that's engaged and a country being at war. This country has not been at war, for 25 years. You have not been fighting for the American homeland for 25 years.
Yes, we haven't. That's true.
Right.
We haven't had a war
Right.
on our shores. We've been picking on third world countries halfway around the world.
Well, you haven't been randomly picking on them. I mean, Afghanistan, you went...
I didn't say it
into-
was random.
Yeah, right, okay. It wasn't like you suddenly decided to bomb, again, Myanmar or something. You went for Afghanistan to find bin Laden and take revenge for 9/11 and stop an attack like that happening again on the American homeland. That is very different from a country being at war.
Yeah, but
Having-
that's a
having-
total mischaracterization of the war in Afghanistan. It's one thing to say that might be an accurate characterization of the special operations mission in late 2001, but then
I'm
we
saying-
fought a
yes, because then
20-year regime
yes,
change war against the Taliban.
Because you got dragged into the quicksand of war.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, fine, but
Fine.
I thought it wasn't a war. Like, what? I don't get
No,
your
I
argument.
said it was a war. It's your use of we, as if you're personally like suffering this war. I mean,
Yeah,
you're a
yes,
taxpayer.
when I say we,
we're
it
taxpayers,
implied,
so we
okay.
pay for it. Okay, fine.
Douglas, would
But,
you go,
I mean,
if I went back and corrected you on every time you've used the term "we" to refer to your government or something like that? Like, if I were to say, "Oh, we just
It's fine,
imposed
just
tariffs
you-
on China,"
it's
would
just
you point out that
take
I
it-
didn't,
you
and it was the
take
Trump administration?
I'm saying you take it obviously very personally, and that's your right to do.
Obviously, you take it very personally, even though I'm the one that made it personal. I am the one that came on here and was like, oh, you're just a lowly comedian. You're not a historian. You're not a scholar of our time. Here I am. I was throwing these personal insults at you, saying that you have no right to talk about such matters because you are just a lowly comedian, a peasant. You do not have the worldly knowledge of I do, a scholar, a historian, to talk about such world matters, and yet you are here taking it personally. Whoa, pish posh, my word.
So, of course, I'm just trying to make sure we're accurate here.
What do you think I'm taking personally?
Just that, the American wars.
Sure, yeah, I think
Yeah.
they've killed hundreds of thousands of people and cost my country $8 trillion and
Sure.
and degraded my country very much.
And there's a very good argument to make on that. I'm still slightly bemused about this move from I'm an expert on this and I have views to I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if somebody
Wait a minute,
says
you have to claim to be an expert on something
No,
to have an opinion on
no,
something?
you don't have to be. You don't have to be. But
So what's
this is
the
like
issue?
I'm not a historian, but I'm pumping out history.
But wait a minute,
I'm
what
not
about
an expert,
just-
but I'm
you-
talking all the time about
But
this
you're not
thing.
even talking about specifically on what he just said.
No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
No, the expert
To
class
hear-
hasn't done a great
I
job,
know,
man. This is follow the science.
absolutely,
Yeah, but you know what?
absolutely, I
Okay,
agree
so fine.
with
So
that.
during,
I just said
okay,
to you,
so,
I agree
right,
with that.
Right, I know.
But
so
one of the
Douglas,
problems
during
is-
all of COVID,
Fire away.
I will put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID. I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up? Should I have shut up by opposing lockdowns and opposing
No.
vaccine mandates
No.
and
Well,
talking
that
about
was
the
the
lab leak
argument at the
theory?
time. You realize
that's
that,
the
right?
entire argument that you're making. Let the
No,
experts
I'm not-
handle
I'm
this.
not.
So what a complete fail that was. You know, Mr. Douglas Murray, pish posh, Douglas pish posh Murray. He's saying that he's not using the appeal to authority, but he is using the appeal to authority. See, here's the thing. If Dave Smith is wrong about anything he says because he's not an expert, well, if Douglas Murray's an expert, and I don't know, I'm assuming he fancies himself as one. I don't know who Douglas Murray is. This is the first I'm hearing of this Douglas Murray, you know. I'm probably going to hear a bunch of the comments going, oh, you don't know who Douglas Murray is? Yeah, no, I don't know who Douglas Murray is. But I'm assuming that he's some kind of historian, maybe. He's some kind of scholar, and that's why he's going, oh, well, you're not a scholar. You're not a historian. We need more experts like me. Well, if he's an expert, well, then what he should be doing is educating, correcting Dave Smith where he's wrong, and whatnot. Instead, it sounds like, from what I've seen of this debate, it sounds like Douglas Murray was losing the debates, and instead of engaging with the ideas, which he started to after he spurred a little bit, he did start to engage again in the ideas. But that's what you do. If you're an expert and you know better, well, then you engage and you debate and you show that you know more, that you are a historian. You don't just talk down to someone as if to say like we shouldn't have an opinion on these things because we're not the experts, we're not the scholars, we're not the historians. That's not how stuff works. We're allowed to have opinions on things. Yes, there are some people who are more knowledgeable on topics than the others, and yes, there are more people who speak on things that they know nothing about. But that doesn't mean that we're not allowed or we shouldn't talk about these conversations. I definitely encourage people to educate themselves more and read up as much as possible. But if you're debating someone and you think that you know more because you're an expert on this, well, then you show it with the points that you make and the logic that you make. Like, for instance, when they engaged a little bit right there, and Dave Smith was like, "Whoa, we got into a war with, Afghanistan. We went in there to we went in there to get Osama bin Laden, and then we were in, Afghanistan for like ever." And then he was like, "Oh, well, you just got into the quicksands of war." Like, well, you could have just said that from the beginning. Like, that's part of debating here. You don't just go and be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Joe, can you get a scholar over here? Can you get an expert that I could properly have a conversation with? We're all tired of that stuff. Dave Smith brought up a good point. We went through that with COVID. We went through that with a lot of things where it's like, trust the experts, trust the science. That's what we hear from the left all the time. Appeal to authority. So yeah, Douglas Murray turning that jackassery all the way up to a 10. But what did you guys think about this? Sound off in the comment section below. Give this video a like if you liked it. And if you really liked it, please consider subscribing to my channel. I got more Dave Smith stuff. I got a whole bunch more content very similar to this, more debates, more political stuff, even some religious stuff that I think you'll really enjoy.